So we're like, what we're doing, we're opening into the code of how creation is made. We're venturing in there. And that's why I'm speaking of the goddess, because the goddess is the creatrix. She's that code. And that you don't understand that shows to which extent you're clueless. And that energy is the container and the code. So we're like that, and the woman is the embodiment of that power. And I'm not saying men do not have a power, but I'm not talking about that power. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So we're opening the door, like the back door, to the code of creation. It's like we're looking into how to make the code of the matrix. And then there's a couple of layers that are just to fool some kind of like person who's curious, and it really begins where a place where very few people dare to venture. Now, what the hell want to do that? I don't know. I like it. All this cool stuff we're talking about is great, and then there's everyday life, and then there's the pick. Right? So it's like, yeah, and then you got to go back into the zoo, and the zoo, it's got its own code, and listen, it's complex. What can I tell you? It's very complex. But one thing I can say is that the things that you learn, because society or the so-called system it's code also. So once you learn how to read code, you learn how to read code at any level. So you start to read the code of society. You intuitively understand it immediately. You don't have to spend time. You can spend time on it, but you don't have to. You already know. You don't live like normal people in fear. Like people are having, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but let's say you have a Joe Rogan, okay? And Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan. I don't know the guy, I have no business with him, but so he'll interview a doctor so-and-so and another doctor so-and-so, like the top epidemiologist or the person who invented the mRNA vaccine and all of this to try to get to the truth. They never get to the truth. And this may be a very interesting conversation because the person who's supposedly invented this has an interesting story. It's a story, nothing more than that. But the fact that you need to talk to such a person to know what's going on, how the body works, and if there's such a thing as a virus, and all of this shows that you're lost. You have no idea how things actually work. So when you start to dive into the underworld, or you start to discover how things are constructed, that creation is made of the mind, and the mind is made of energies, and how those energies dance together in the intelligence that weaves it together, you're no longer subject to delusional intellectual concepts invented by psychopaths who live at the surface and then create psychopathic responses to more psychopathy. This is not, for me, it's not even a conversation because you already know this is total nonsense. Now, what becomes interesting about that nonsense is to which extent nonsense can exist and proliferate on itself. It's like a mushroom sprouting itself endlessly. That is endlessly fascinating. It's fucked up. It's like, wow, how stupid can you be? And stupidity is full of genius. Like, look at what they're doing. It's insanely stupid, but if you isolate it on its own, it's fucking awesome. But there's no such thing as a leaf disconnected from a tree. So it's totally pointless. So I don't care for it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So as you discover the code, or you understand how energies function at a deeper level within yourself, how your body and your constitution works, let's say in relation to the woman and herself, you start to see this. Everything starts to become chemistry. But it's not chemistry of imaginary molecules in your mind. It's powers. Because creation is made of powers. How powers that are coming from the mind, not this mind. This is your mind is you're at home with your IP number that allows you to plug into the World Wide Web of the mind. So your brain system and its mind is your IP, your personal computer IP that plugs into the universal mind, if we can call it like this. So you start to understand how the realm of the mind and its constitution, and that allows you to see through things. It's not you try, it's not a psychic ability. Well, you could say it's a psychic ability, but it's not. It's just because it's right there. Like in my psychic, I'm not in the least bit. But it's just there, it's obvious, you can see it. You can see those energies, you recognize them, they have a face. When they move, you can see them move. They live inside the body in specific places. They dance and combine, like you just see it. Just like words, when you're a wordsmith, you understand words and how words move and dance and bounce off of each other and combine, and you can split it in parts and bring intonation here or there or here or there and create kind of like music with it. It's the same, but with natural or organic energies, if you can call it like this. So you also start to see and decipher the system, which is it's a byproduct of a disease, right? And then you can see through it. It's very obvious. I don't need to see a video about Illuminati people telling me that these people are doing such crazy, I don't want to talk about this here, but you understand those bad things that they're doing, or those ceremonies of doom, and you don't care for any of this. It's not, it can entertain you if you want, but you don't need this because you already understand how it works. And when you understand those energies, you also don't have a judgment. If you understand nature, you don't judge the lion for eating a zebra. So when you understand psychic powers and you understand that certain people are vehicles for certain specific powers, and certain powers are accentuated in certain other peoples and whatnot, well, you know that this power, in order to compensate, in order to function, in order to be able to sustain a body, needs a certain kind of nutrition. Just like certain athletes need to eat certain kinds of food, well, certain kind of psychic powers that live in certain bodies need a certain kind of nutrition to be able to sustain themselves. So you don't care for what your commoner says, who's full of fear, the uninitiated, if we can call them like this. Big word, I know, I apologize, but it's really what it is. They're profane, they don't know. So they live in fear and judgment, and like, well, you don't have now judgment, I don't care. Well, these are evil people. I'm like, they're evil according to you, not according to how it's constructed. And yeah, their actions may be what you can consider demonic, but who am I to judge? I have no opinion. And I can steer very clear away from those energies also. And let us say I have to engage with them, and it happens in life. You don't know when you collide with what. Well, you know how to dance with those energies. You know how to respond to them. You know how to neutralize them. Or you know how to neutralize them optimally to avoid unnecessary pain, suffering, and violence, or unnecessary contract or renewal of a contract, which means that you need to engage more into this shit. In my humble opinion, if you don't know this, it's like being lost in a country, a foreign country. You're fucked. It's over for you. You don't speak the language. You don't know up from down, north from south. You don't know where to go. You don't, like, how do you find your way? You're lost. So if you come in this realm, the material realm in which we live, and this so-called planet that we call Earth, and you want to be able to live here and navigate through it to get to the other side, whatever that means, the other side. How are you going to do that if you don't understand? You don't know where you are. You don't know what's around you. You don't recognize. You can't see. How do you navigate without bumping yourself into everything or being caught in every trick or con? Like, how do you do this? Now, most people get totally screwed over very fast. Some people become like sharp. They're very smart guys. Notice I did say guys, very smart guys, very like, there's all kinds of difference of intelligence, and they learn to navigate, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you know how to navigate a sphere of social game. Respect, genuinely from the bottom of my being. Yeah, but social game is nothing compared to the big picture. And the big picture is not, it's not because you aren't aware of it, you can perceive it, or it's quote unquote unconscious, that it's not ruling the world you're living in. Like I've said, people squeeze themselves in the matrix or in the society or the system because it gives them a false sense of security that we got it all under control. That's what life is about. I'm like, that's not what life is about. This lives off of this. It's like the tip of the iceberg. It's not. I'm not discarding it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying, let's say you know how to navigate this. Yeah, but this can be, if this shakes, this is over. And this lives in a cosmos, is in effect, and is under the effect of so many other forces, including everything on which it's living. And you still have to navigate through the whole thing because your human experience is not bound to this. It's the whole thing, and you've just dismissed it because you can't handle it. It doesn't change the fact that it's there. That's all I'm trying to say. It's not because you pretend something is not there that it's not there, and you're not subject to its laws. So that's the convenience of society in the modern world. It just deletes everything that's inconvenient. So now if you establish yourself in it, you can do well for yourself because you know how to hustle the game, you know how to activate your greed energy or your anger energy to be able to play or take from the system, and you can position yourself in a comfortable place. You're under the impression that you're actually a master. Now, clearly at a certain level you are, but what's 1% of 1%? It's nothing. This is not life. This is the crust of life. It's not even the crust of life, it's the crust of the crust. So, and that doesn't change the fact that you're subject to all the other forces and all the laws that they operate in. So anyways, like I say, to each his own. I don't care, this is your life, but I'll speak for myself. I'm like, well, I'm not able to deceive myself in such a way. If I could, perhaps I would do that also. I don't feel that I'm noble. I couldn't do it. I couldn't dismiss whatever else I was perceiving, even though it was not applicable here. I'm like, something else is going on, and I can't ignore it. That's it. So that's what you gain. In fact, in my humble opinion, when you come on earth, this is the basic you need to know. You need to know where you are, how your body works, and how this world operates. And that doesn't exclude the system or society. That also includes it, but this is it's just an element of it. And all those natural forces work in society, even though society has repressed them and made them illegal and hidden them away with their cement walls and their 5G fucking beams, right? They've just repressed the expression. They've repressed the expression of those natural forces. They have not stopped those natural forces. These natural forces just said, okay, no problem. But these natural forces are still operational. You just cannot perceive them anymore. But they're still there and they're still doing what they got to do. And they'll catch up to you. It's just a matter of time. You don't believe me? Look at the way people die. That tells you everything. You can't escape natural law, and you can't escape the fact that we are part of a world and our society is living on top of it, and that world has rules and laws that we don't know. And we want nothing to do with it because it scares the shit out of us because it's total darkness. And I'm not talking about just the surface nature with the jungle and the forest and the little amphibians. And I'm talking about the actual powers that make up this world. Mind powers. The threads.